lack thereof an altercation is...
Hello, good evening. Breaking news 4 hours ago. Footage is released showing no signs of self-defense in a Camaro Antonio case. Let's watch, shall we?
It's gonna make Carmelo Anthony look bad. So Utah and Florida just passed bills to ban fluoride in the water supply. Why are these states suddenly doing a major, massive U-turn on fluoride when they've been adding this to our water for over 80 years? Well, RFK has been warning us about fluoride for a while, and the government now admits to the fact that fluoride is linked to low IQ. In a study done by JAMA Pediatrics, one of the top medical journals, scientists found that fluoride levels over 2 milligrams per liter of water causes more than a 2-point drop in children's IQ scores. My wife Corinne and I have 2 young boys, and this is exactly why we love Cove Pure and their pure water. You've heard me talk about Cove Pure before. It's a water filtration system that sits on the countertop. You don't have to drill holes or call a plumber to set it up. You just fill it with tap water, plug it in, and get straight to work. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is lab certified to remove up to 99.9% of impurities in your water. Anything that isn't water, meaning fluoride, arsenic, and forever chemicals, all gets filtered out, leaving you with pure water. And let me tell you this, once you try Cove Pure water, you'll never go back. It's the best tasting water that I've ever had. Look, I have some of it right here. Look how clean and clear that water is. Plus, what I love about Cove Pure is that it lets you have water exactly the way you want it. Whatever temperature that you want the water to be at, you can push the button. You can have cold, hot, or warm water, whatever you like. But if you happen to like fluoride, that's totally fine. There's tons of ways that you can get fluoride. One is through toothpaste, or you can get it through mouthwash. But the government should never force you to ingest it. So take back your rights to have options. Click the link in my description section, covepure.com/Tatum. And for a limited time only, you'll get a special discount of $200 off Cove Pure. So breaking news, and I think to a certain degree is going viral online, and is that Carmelo Anthony's track meet footage has been released, but only to a certain group of people. And they articulate what they saw in the video. Roll the clip.
Frisco ISD is releasing surveillance video of the stabbing at the track meet that led to the death of a student back in April, but only under very strict conditions. So through open records, they will allow whoever requests it to view that video, but no recording whatsoever is allowed. On that note, we sent our IT producer, Kelsey Midtower, to watch that video. She joins us now in studio to walk us through what you saw. We're going to go in order here in just a second, Kelsey. But in general terms, what did the video depict? What did you see?
It shows everything from the moments leading up to the stabbing, to the medical response, to then the beginning of the police investigation.
Okay, and it lasted several minutes is what they showed.
It did, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so let's start in the beginning now and talk a little bit about what you saw at the front end of that video, because you got to see the attack, the actual stabbing
right.
place.
So I started watching about 9:53. The camera shows half of the field. So it's about from the 50-yard line on, and the tent where it happened was kind of right in front of the 50-yard line, but the camera is down here. Okay. It's positioned across the field. So everybody in the video, you can tell they are kids or adults, but no one's identifiable.
So a long shot is what
a long shot, yeah.
So a couple minutes in, and you actually see the altercation take place.
Yes, everything leading up to it, everyone's milling about. It seems very normal, and then right at 9:55, that's when there's this explosive movement or action between 2 people under the tent, and that's when the employees in the room told me that's when the stabbing happened at 9:55.
Right, and you were talking about people kind of start to scatter at that moment. Obviously, something went wrong. And so what happens next? Because now, a little bit later on, that's when the ambulance shows up.
Right. So when the ambulance arrives, it actually comes through near the end zone at the gate, and then it comes up to the 50-yard line directly in front of the tent. You can see Austin Metcalf is right here. But then when they pull up close to the tent, they realize that they can't get the stretcher to him because of the barrier of the bleachers. So at that point, then the paramedics have to get out, and then they have to walk all the way back to the end zone. This is actually, in the next slide. They have to to go all the way back to the end zone and then come all the way back. That takes another couple of minutes. So at this point, they've arrived and they are actively working on Metcalf at that point.
And we want to reiterate, we're using some imagery here to sort of denote exactly what was happening here, these little icons that were using the ambulance, because again, the video was not able to be released. You're watching all of this happen, Kelsey, and you're watching the time sort of elapse. What are you thinking about when you see this, especially when you see sort of the issues in getting Metcalf out of there?
I mean, you know, I understand why it happened the way it happened. They were still working on him, actually. The thing that really struck me is they're working on him, and that's when you see the rain's coming down heavier, and then they actually pull out the blue tarp.
The tarp that we saw.
Right, and then I noticed the crime scene tape is already up. I was so focused on here, I didn't even see that, but they're building the crime scene actively around him as they're continuing to work on him in the bleachers.
So that was happening while he was
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this real quick. I think it's time for me to interject and get some things established. So, with the video footage that have been articulated, it sounds consistent. Now, she's not saying a lot. The video footage doesn't seem like it's the end-all, be-all. I'm pretty sure witness statements are going to be more pertinent than the grainy video footage. But what I think it will show, that's going to be a very big burden for the defense, is that they're going to have to show through the video evidence that there was an altercation. Because if there is a lack thereof an altercation, it's going to make Carmelo Anthony look bad. Because if you see people fighting an altercation and then right around that time you see a stabbing, then that could be different. But it appears that people who allegedly saw this video, because I can't verify if they saw it or not, I believe they wouldn't get on the news and lie because they'll get sued, the Sox will get sued off, that they're saying that it does not appear to be a brawl, or it does not appear to be a mob attack against Carmelo Anthony, and therefore his self-defense claim does not seem prevalent.
Well, what do you think's going to happen in this Austin?
Metcalf had, well, no, that boy going to
Carmelo
jail.
Anthony's going to go to jail.
Carmelo going to jail. Because listen, you cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was
What if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense, because if you are afraid the day before, where you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher that's bringing these kids in here and resolve this issue. It's called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values, you tell the teacher. You tell the teacher, let the teacher know, so when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation. So words of documentation just say this is self-defense. It's a premeditated crime because you took a weapon in fear. Anticipate to use it.
That was premeditated, though.
And it's at a track meet. You getting ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go. So when is it all right to kill the bully? I don't give a what the bully did. He don't have a right to die.
No.
Man, you weak man. That's why I say teach the kids how to deal with bullies, and this won't happen. We're all not equal. Even in nature, you can be feeding a flock of birds. There's going to always be one bird to come in and take the food from the... This is nature. You cannot get rid of bullies. Teach the kids how to deal with them. Bullies build character. You go to work, there's going to be a bully supervisor, a bully co-worker. You cannot get rid of the bully. Teach our children conflict resolution. Everything don't have to end in violence. But when you come from the black culture, everything is disputed in violence.
Yeah. That is the problem, though.
It's the culture.
That's the culture. That's how they solve. When you have a serious issue, they don't even contemplate trying to talk it out.
We teach a no snitching rule, right? So our kids are walking around with these mafia rules, codes, and ethics of the streets that's held over children about no snitching. So now I have to take a weapon because I don't want to be a snitch and kill another kid. It's a simple solution. Go tell the teacher. Tell your parents.
Now, when it comes to the ambulance working on somebody, I would argue that a medical personnel jumped up into the stands and began CPR as they get the stretcher to come around and get Austin Metcalf. Also, the reason that they put crime scene tape up is because they probably knew that Austin Metcalf had already died. Like, this is one thing I think people have to understand, because there's legitimate protocol that you have to do, although you know that there's just an end result. Like, for instance, you don't stop doing CPR on somebody just because they die, if that makes sense, right? until you can get them to a medical facility where they could possibly be reassessed and there could be life-saving measures. If a person is completely dead and they're ruled dead at the scene and there's absolutely nothing you can do to save them, then they will leave the body at the scene, tarp the body, and create crime scene tape. The medical staff will leave and the coroner will come and get the body later after they process the scene and recreate the scene and everything else. But in a situation like Austin Metcalf, him being a young man, just because he goes unconscious or his heart stopped beating doesn't mean that they're not going to continue to do CPR on him, and does not mean that they're not going to try to transport him to see if they can save his life at the hospital. Therefore, it would be reasonable that he had already died at the track. He probably went unconscious, his heart stopped beating because he got stabbed in the heart, and he was completely dead. He died in his brother's arms. He was laying there. But they're not going to just let him, they're going to try to do some form of CPR on him until they can assess the issue at a hospital. So the reason why they may have been putting up the crime scene tape and putting the tarp over, because they pretty much knew he was dead. And they want to prepare for a murder scene, and they had to go through the rigmarole of, trying to save him and putting him in the ambulance and pronouncing him dead at the hospital. So just so you guys know, because it does seem to be odd that they did all this and all that, and they put the tarp up and everything, but the kid is still kind of alive. It's like, no, I have been to cases and scenes like that before where we got to do our due diligence and try to do the best that we can, but we do know the person is gone, and there's probably no way of saving a person, right? Like for instance, I had a guy who it was a drug deal gone bad, which we found out later on. It was the most mysterious scene I've ever seen in my life because we had no idea why we were seeing what we were seeing. And I'll just give you a quick rundown. Maybe you can put me full screen. I'll just give you a quick rundown because I think it's pertinent, and some of y'all may find this interesting. This is the wildest call I've ever been on in my life. So what happened on this call was that we got a report of a man walking down the street with a gun. And so in Arizona, you can carry a gun if you want to. So it's like, what's the harm in that? We'll go check it out and see what's going on. But then when we get a little closer to the scene, and this is in a community where they don't call the police. They call it the village. It's a bunch of Native American people, and they hate the police. So they'll never call. I don't care if you died, they won't call. So the fact that somebody called a man walking down the street with a gun was suspicious a little bit. So we wanted to respond. And then they said the man is now parked in a car in the front of our house with a gun in his hand. With a gun. And so now he's a threat to the public. Everything goes off. We got 100 cops flying to the scene. We getting out with AR-15s. We going up. We see the truck with all the doors open. And then when we get to the truck, we clear the truck, right? And then we clear the area. Nothing is going on. The people in the house haven't come out. Nobody knows what's going on. We're like, how's this truck just sitting here? And then we noticed the guy in the front seat had got shot in the head, and he was literally coagulated blood. He had been sitting there for a period of time. So they didn't even call when he got shot and killed. So then that's when the crazy stuff happened. We couldn't rescue him. We had to use a dog leash to try to get him. He had blood all over his body. He slipped out all his clothes, blood all over my shoes, brain matter on my face because I had to throw him on the gurney, which is an impossibility. Only by the grace of God I can get him up there because he was about 250, 280 pounds. The firefighters, they parked down the street, but they run the gurney. We had to go get the gurney and run it up a half a block because they can't enter into an active crime scene or like an active scene. So we didn't know how to lower the gurney. So the gurney is like about 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. And this guy is covered in blood, so we can't grab him. I can't grab his body because it's slippery. We're using a dog leash because one of the K9 unit guys came and helped, and the only way we can get him is try to wrap his upper body in a dog leash and pick his body up and throw him on the thing. Well, you can only imagine that nobody could do it but me. And the guy weighs like 280 pounds. So only by the grace of God, I could lift his body up just enough to get him under my knee, and I flipped him up on the gurney. But when I flipped him up, his head went forward and went back like this. But when his head went forward, some of his brain matter hit me in the face, and blood got on like around my mouth. It was disgusting. Some of it got on my badge, and it was terrible. But anyway, saying all this to say, he was pretty much dead. Right? He had lost a third of his brain matter because he got shot in the side of the head, and some of his brains was on the back seat, and so it was clear that he was dead. But we still had to do everything we can to try to save his life. So we did all that. Then we had to run a half a block with the gurney, with him halfway on the gurney, because I couldn't get him all the way on the gurney. I just got his upper body on the gurney. So we run it with the gurney. His legs are hanging off the gurney. His upper body's on the gurney. I'm holding him. We still don't know who shot him and where the shooters are at. And we run him down there to the fire department. I remember it was something I did that was very insensitive, but I didn't mean to do it. I had blood all on my face and some brain matter parts. And I was worried about blood getting in my mouth because I don't know if the guy had hepatitis or AIDS and so I just remember getting there and I'm like, my face, like somebody like wiped my face off. And they were like, can you wait? We kind of busy here. Like we try to save this guy's life. He got shot in the head. And then, after that, I realized that, oh crap, that does make sense. I do need to kind of pipe down a little bit. But I ended up wiping my face off, and I had to go home and change my blood. My uniform was covered in blood. And then I went to another call with a grandma. And grandma wanted me to swipe for fingerprints because somebody broke in the house 15 hours ago. But I did. I treat everybody with respect and dignity, and I did. But that's just the instance how police work. I went from this crazy crime scene with blood and guts and all this stuff and all this trauma, and then trying to deal with grandma, who's, her biggest issue right now is somebody broke in the house and stole some stuff. Anyway, I say that to say, I think the guy was already dead. We had to still do everything we can to save his life, but we began to set up crime scene tape and everything. Although he had gotten transported to the hospital, we knew he wasn't going to make it.
All right, we're going to turn back now to the riots in Los Angeles.
There you have it, folks. There was not no self-defense like he claimed it was. It was straight up murder. Okay? It was just straight up murder. Tell me this, why in the world will you take a knife unless A, you plan to do something, B, you had it planned out, C, you act on it, D, you knew it was going to happen. Like Charles White said, it's a culture thing and everything, which is sad. It truly is. And everything. I think it's just right here, it's really sad, really. When you have a young man dead, you got another man who is about to go to jail, is going to be somebody's bitch and everything in prison. And all. It's really sad. But it's that mentality that people have, mainly in the black culture. I hate to say it, but it's really mainly in the black culture and everything about it. And all. And it's just sad. It truly is. He has right here, Carmelo Anthony pleads guilty after the video of stabbing released. Of course, everybody knew he was going to be guilty and everything. Letitia James is arrested after caught sheltering illegal immigrants in her home, which we all knew she's a crooked bitch anyway. This happened 12 hours ago, and it's going to be my next video showing up. Good night.